Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Ethos. Why don't everybody come on in, get some food, get your drink, and we'll start this thing. So, as everybody knows, we're kind of in our home stretch here at the Loft. So we're going to have everybody here. The kids are going to be here with us. We're going to be, as when we first started, at the coffee shops all together. Noise, food, chatter here and there, but we're going to be all together. So we only have a few more weeks here, so let's really enjoy ourselves. Let's really savor what we've done in the past and what we're doing in the present, and enjoy each other's company and discussion, and just all the things that make up us as Ethos. So obviously. It's always a treat when Chanel sings, and so obviously I'm very happy that she's here to give us her beautiful music. Tony will be speaking on some concepts of the kingdom now and of Christ, and his talk today is going to be centered on the parable of the mustard seed. So without any further announcements, Chanel, it's all yours.
Miles can conceal you, and every glimmer is a spark, catching fire as you break through. And oh, you're not far away, you're coming close. And oh, even as I wait, you're coming close. You're like summer in the night. The sun goes down, but still I feel you. And every shadow's turning bright, and every broken heart is made new. And oh, you're not far away, you're coming close. And oh, you're not far away, you're coming close. And oh, even as I wait to come in close, you're like starlight in the dark, and the smiles can't conceal you, and heavy glimmer is a spark, catching fire as you break through.
Good. How many of you remember Cafe 102, Chanel singing I Won't Back Down? Does anyone remember her singing that song? Yeah, there was this moment where she sang the song I Won't Back Down, and I watched her hit these notes she'd never hit before. It's really beautiful. And so my hope for you, Chanel, is that no matter where you go, no matter whatever company you're in, you won't soften your voice. I love you. I wanted to start with this. We're going to do this next week as well. But when you have that title, pastor, usually everyone assumes like you should know everything, right? You're the answer guy. And if you aren't the answer guy, then you're not doing your job, am I right? So what I want to do is, you've heard me speak about a bunch of stuff in the past, like some of you, 5 or 6 years. And I wonder if there's anything that you're thinking, hey, I keep thinking about this. I keep going back to this thing. Can you expand on this a little more? And what I'll do is I'll open it up to conversation, so I'm not just the answer guy. But is there anything, and again, I'll give you a chance to write some of that down next week as well, anything that you can think of that like, oh yeah, what about this concept? Can we flesh it out more? And again, maybe you can think about it later, but again, I'll open it up for conversation and kind of continue dialogue with it. Anything you can think of that we've kind of discussed over the past 6 years. Yep. Oh, no, that was a fly. Okay. You're just all pretty good, comfortable. All right. What I want you to do for next week, I want you to think about some of those concepts, those things we've discussed that you might want fleshed out more. And as a group, we're going to flesh it out. It'll be kind of fun to do. Cool? Awesome. All right. I think that'll be fun. All right. So here we go. I want to start with this question. How do you define faith? And when have you experienced it lately? Turn to someone next to you. Define faith to them. And again, you'll be surprised because faith, people are going to have many different opinions about this word. And then when have you experienced that thing that you just described lately? So as the music plays, I want you just to turn to someone next to you, answer that question, and then we'll open it up in a minute. But go for it. Turn to someone next to you. How do you define faith? How have you experienced it lately? give you 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. Everyone watching from home, just write down your answer. Write down your answer. You can see it, you can feel it. Joe's gone, it's like chaos. I know it's true. We manage without him, it's true. We just All right. I'm going to cut you off. And I'm just going to open it up because I'd love for you all to hear the different perspectives on this word. Someone give me a running definition of faith for you. And again, your answer may be different from someone else's, and that's okay. So go for it. Faith. Just what is faith to you?
I'll give you my definition.
Yep.
But I wrote it down really quickly. Probably can use some tweaking, but it's just really quick off the. I put faith is living the life we've been given among other people and other things, knowing that those things may influence but not define you or your life, and accepting that things are not always good or bad, and that's okay, because we have the power to give value to the good and roll with the bad.
Nice. Okay, so faith is a posture of living. Nice. Learning to take the good and the bad. I like that. All right, someone else. Faith. You gotta have faith, the faith, the faith. Baby. Yep.
For me, faith is believing something you don't see.
Okay, believing something I don't see. Okay, good. Thank you.
Confident, like completely confident about the outcome of something. Like if you pray for it, you have that faith that it's going to happen.
Okay.
So it's like that confidence that you have, whether it happens or not, you just like you're, I'm gonna hold on to this and this is going to happen. So
So faith is
it's like confidence of
faith is the confidence knowing this
you
thing
have
will.
God behind you and it's going to happen.
Got it.
It's like it's just confidence.
All right, good. That confidence. Good. Anyone else? Faith. You want to say it, don't you? Say it. Yeah.
It's the not knowing and trusting based on, I need to say, past experiences that we've fallen through. And me having the same faith that I know that people provide it next time. It always has worked out. When things occur in a way that I'm like, wow, this actually did work out. If I had known this before, but now seeing it after, it's like, oh yeah, you're right. Trusting in you, he does follow through when I'm ready for that to happen. It's not him, it's me.
Okay, interesting. So,
The right place to be able to receive that blessing that I want. Right.
gotcha. Trusting God, but also trusting in the process. Okay, interesting. Cool. I like that.
Faith is the knowledge of the heart.
Okay, faith is the knowledge of the heart. That's the Steve Rivera definition. Very good. Here's stuff I've heard more and more people say over the years, and I'm sure you've heard people say this before too. They've used faith in many different ways, some of them very cliche, right? Hold on, God knows what he's doing. How many of you have ever had people say that before? You're in the middle of something really terrible, something horrific, and someone says, hey, God knows what he's doing. How does that land for you? Some people might say, thank you. Others might say, screw you. You know, like, how does that land for you when you hear someone say that for you?
It's like an excuse for you to not
Do
do anything,
Right.
or be just, I don't know, like, that you don't have to do your part.
Feels like a cop-out, kind of.
Basically.
Gotcha.
It's also like you don't know what you do, like you have no idea what you do.
Okay. It's almost like well, you're just helpless. So, okay. Interesting. How does it paint the picture of God for you? God knows what he's doing. Just hold on. Did God cause the horrific thing? There's a lot of questions that come up with statements like this. For me, at least, I ask a lot of questions that.
I think, like, it holds a lot of truth, but I think that is taken, I think it's misunderstood, that saying. I don't think that God can cause that. I think there are a million different options that God thinks you have, and he doesn't know which option you're going to choose.
Okay, interesting.
So, like, it's really hard for him to decide what you're going to do until the moment comes, I feel like.
So God kind of.
It's not like that he's causing it. He knows what could happen, but he knows there's a million different things that could happen to you. He doesn't know which one you're going to choose, though.
He's sitting there in the passenger seat and saying, all right, where to?
Yeah.
All right, interesting. If you go that direction, that'll be an interesting direction. I can see where that might lead. Okay.
That statement leads me to believe that he's taken back your freedom of choice.
Okay,
And at the
interesting.
same time, God knows what he's doing. It makes you think, what the hell is he thinking?
Okay.
Why is he doing this?
I could do this a lot better than you, God. I think I could write a better script. Okay. Yeah, I could see how some might follow that too. I've heard many people in the middle of pain or frustration or whatever it is, don't even worry. Like, don't worry. Just have faith. I was also told growing up, when I was studying religion and theology, I remember hearing, I would have a question about a certain doctrine or a certain understanding of the Bible, and I remember asking questions of it. I would say, yeah, but what about this, right? And I remember they would say, just have faith. And in that point, what they're saying there is just have faith in our interpretation. Just have faith in what we are saying is correct. And I remember kind of being frustrated with that, like, well, what if I don't have that much faith in you? I've seen what you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting how different people use the word faith. And I grew up with faith as being a really positive thing, but also kind of like a big question mark. What does it mean? What does it really mean? How do you live by faith, right? How do you live by faith? And if, again, there's so many different Bible verses about faith. Faith, the evidences of things unseen. Faith, learning to walk in the darkness. All these different concepts we get. What's faith? So I want to share with you some interesting ideas about faith. And I'm going to talk about Matthew 17. Do you guys remember the story about the mustard seed? How many of you have ever seen a mustard seed? Okay, so some of you are aware they're pretty tiny, right? So a lot of people will read this story and they'll say, oh, you just need a little. And if you just have a little, there's a lot, right? But what I want to share with you is Jesus uses a really interesting analogy with the mustard seed. He talks about a mountain. Do you guys remember it? He says, if you say to that mountain, do you guys, who can say it? Repeat it. Yeah, move and fall the sea. It'll fall. It'll move. That mountain, if you believe enough, if you have faith, you can say to that mountain, move from there to there. For us today, we've taken that and it's been like an interesting, move the mountain. I've heard stories. People have told these, I think they're urban legends, but whatever. I've heard about people who have prayed that certain literal mountains will be moved, and then all of a sudden a tunnel gets blown through the mountain, and they're like, see, my prayer was answered. Now it's only an hour drive instead of 4 hours. Interesting stuff has been made of these the literalism of this concept. But what I find really fascinating is there's something interesting. When Jesus says, say to that mountain, he's actually pointing to a mountain that people would have seen and understood at that time, which was a very common mountain. You guys ready for it? Yeah. Herod the Great. Herod the Great, he took, if you could take this mountain and you could kind of broaden that picture, you'd see another mountain, but like half of a hill now. It would have been like half a hill, and you would have seen it kind of cut off. Because what Herod the Great did around 4 AD, what Herod the Great did is he believed he needed a large military like embankment kind of fortress. And what Herod the Great did is he built a lot of aqueducts and all these beautiful things. And what he wanted to have a great structure that would protect him. He had a fear that the enemy would come in and they'd overtake him. And so what he did is he raised taxes extremely, extremely high. He brought in a huge labor force, slave labor force. He had countless people murdered because he thought people were attempting to destroy his plans. Even his mother and wife murdered because he thought they were in on it. To get this thing happening, this mountain was actually a little hill at first. And so there are a couple different hills on this plain there in Jerusalem. And what he did is he had them slice off one half of a hill, an adjacent one, and then move all of that dirt to create a mountain, what you're seeing there. And it became so high that it was 7 stories high, which would have been huge for that time era. And Herod, what he did is inside of the mountain, he created this really interesting kind of palace. It had hanging gardens, everything. And so when Jesus says, you can move a mountain, here's the thing. Herod just did that. He just moved a mountain. And you can almost picture Jesus saying, if you have faith, you can move a mountain. Do you guys see it? Except think about how Herod moves a mountain. Herod's whole desire was to keep himself safe. He's scared, right? He wants the largest military in the empire. That's him. He builds it on the back of slave labor. He builds it on the back of violence. He builds it on the back of a lot of injustice. He builds it. The Herodian, look it up on Google. You'll find it. This is called the Herodian. And so now let me read you this story, this parable. When they came to a crowd, a man came up to Jesus and knelt before him. Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and suffering terribly. He often falls into the fire, into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him. Jesus says, "O unbelieving and perverse generation." He replied, "How long must I remain with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy here." Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed from that moment. Interesting story, right? The disciples can't quite do their mojo. They didn't have their Wheaties that morning. They weren't able to do the thing that Jesus said they'd be able to do. And again, many people will argue, is it a real demon or not? I don't care to get into it today. You can have that discussion elsewhere. But point is, Jesus equates them not being able to do something heroic with not having enough faith. And then they come together, and Jesus always has this powwow with people, like when things kind of go awry. He's like, let's sit down and let's have some postum. Let's have some coffee. Oh, that's an Adventist joke. Let's sit together and let's talk. Let's have the conversation. And so after the disciples came to Jesus privately, they asked, why couldn't we drive it out? He says, because you have so little faith. For truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. In the face of fear, which is driving Herod to build the mountain, he says, just have faith like a mustard seed. Still kind of mysterious, right? It's still a little bit mystical, this story, this parable. Have faith the size of a mustard seed. Faith in what? How? What's the process? Those are questions we would ask today, right? There are probably 100 billion books on faith, all saying different things, all taking this story and twisting it a little differently. So what does it mean? So here's the word faith, and I find this one interesting. Pistis could be pronounced really interesting if you're from the South. Pistis. That'd be weird. The word firm persuasion, assurance, there's always an image associated with words in the Greek and the Hebrew. And the word image, it looks like this. Anyone ever do that before? When would you do this? Okay, nice. Damn, that was tough. Anyone else? Like, when would you see someone do that, or you yourself do that?
Frustration.
Okay, frustration. My face looks a lot different when I'm frustrated. I'm like, that or constipated. Okay. After you made your meals, yeah. Again, think about it. In the middle of some kind of conflict, when someone does this, what does that do to you? Actually, I have a really great way of looking condescending every time I do any kind of face. So pretend I'm not being condescending, but just... What? I gave up. Okay. Maybe I gave up being right. Now I can breathe. I don't know. All right.
Or maybe just taking it in, you know?
Okay, interesting.
Just taking it in and then just processing pain.
Taking it in, processing, breathing out. It seems to be, people who do that seem to be relaxed. Ever see that in the middle of conflict? Someone will just...
It looks like you quit, but stayed.
I quit, but I'm here.
Yeah.
Processed it. I'm sticking around. I'm going to talk about it, but I'm not angry, interestingly enough, right? I've seen people do that with me before. They'll do that, and I think, okay, well, there's something coming. There's something coming. They might not agree, but there's something coming. It's the posture of breathing out in the middle of something that's conflicting. Breathing out. Breathe in, breathe out. Yeah? Kind of cool. The breath idea, again, I find really interesting. The first thing that, again, this beautiful metaphor in Genesis, in order for man to have life, what does he need? He and she. Breath. There needs to be a breathing out, right? So that one can breathe in. If you just stop breathing right now, if you just went, what would happen to you? Yeah, you'd die. Yeah, it'd be terrible. I hope you all continue breathing. Breath, very important, especially in the Bible. Often you'll see God, the divine, is connected to the concept of breath, breathing. Everything we do, so intricately involved. And so the Hebrews, when they're talking about God, often they won't necessarily give God shape and form. They'll talk about things that are intricately involved, intimately with you. Your breath, your being. Those kind of images are really powerful. And yeah, they'll also use he, she, but that's what they had. And so I was with a friend, and I told him about our move and all of the stuff going on. And he always seems to give me the phone call right about when things have shifted and transitions happen. And so he called, and he said, how you doing? I said, I feel just out of sorts. It's been nuts. He said, tell me about it. So I started telling him kind of where I am and how I'm feeling and how there's a lot of transition. And he said, yeah, you used to do a lot of that before. And I started to think, yeah, like I remember growing up thinking I want to be on a big stage and talk to a lot of people. And that'll feed me. And then it came true. I got to go up and speak to a lot of people. And then I thought, it'd be cool to have my own church, have my own service. And then I had it, and I had a lot of people, and I got to walk the stage and do my thing and talk. And then there was a shift. And then I got to be in a place where it's a little more coffee shop. And that's been fun. It's been life-giving. And it's been slowly moving to living rooms where I sit around with people and I just relax and be human again. And the stage starts to kind of leave. I remember going to one of my friends in Michigan. He had a pretty big mega church. And this is when they first started. And he took me into this one room. He said, this is where the young adults, I love that word, by the way, young adults, whatever that means, young adults. You're cute. You're not quite an adult, though. You can't make your own decisions. But we want your money. So this was the young adult room. And I walk in, and there was like this sweet stage, fog machine, lights, all that stuff. They had the big drum kit up there. It looked sweet. And truth be told, I kind of modeled some of what we did at my old church there. And so I saw all of this, and he's walking me around and like pointing stuff out to me. And then he says, but look over there. And I look over in the corner, and there's a literal living room set up. It looks like a living room. And so I asked him, I said, what's this? He goes, oh, this is my favorite part. I said, it's a living room. I said, yeah, I see that. What's the purpose? That's what I want this thing to become. And I looked around and I thought, this huge room can be a living room? Smoke machine, lights, huge band. That's what your living room looks like? My living room looks very different. And so I'm sharing with my friend all of these thoughts I'm having. And he goes, yeah, I can see that. I shared with him how I'm beginning to transition into like finding church and God in the community, in the living room, in those settings and conversation where I'm not always the answer guy, but just the guy that's sitting there posing questions like everybody else. And he said, yeah, that sounds interesting. And then he started to laugh. And he said, Tony, I love you. I don't always agree with you, but I love you. He said, I've watched your journey. And he said, and I wrote it down. He said, you jump, and most of us watch you jump. And he said this, and I thought, man, because it doesn't feel like it. He says, often you'll take the leap, and many of us will watch and think, holy cow, what is he doing? What is he doing? And then he said, you're teaching me to trust my journey. And I thought, oh, if there's one thing that I could feel really good about after doing these 10 years of holding that title of pastor, you're teaching me to trust my journey. I thought, that's really beautiful. I can get behind that. Because I think all of us are doing that to some degree with one another, teaching each other to trust the journey. When our kids are losing it in the middle of the night, the next morning I can count on Steve giving me 8 different ideas of how to deal with it, right? Learning to teach each other how to trust the journey. How many of you have ever done this? Something bad happens and you immediately panic and you get super reactionary. Anyone else but me? How has that turned out for you? Come on. Chaos? This thing just happened. Ah! And then Okay, interesting. It never really changed the thing that happened, but you slammed the panic button, right? Like you just and you kicked it out. How's that worked for you? Panic. I can tell you it's often caused me to say things or do things I often would regret later on. Relationships, I could have just sat and breathed, but instead I had to, well, and you immediately have to be right? You immediately have to set yourself higher than someone else. The panic button.
I think a lot of times I get to the same result that I would have if I hadn't panicked, but it's just a lot worse getting there.
Nice. Yeah, it took a whole lot longer to get to the place I am now. If I just said, I'm just going to relax, not panic, I would have gotten to the same place. Yeah. And by the way, I'm sharing all this because I do the same thing. I'm not an expert at this. I'm just learning along with everybody else. I've got my panic moments too. Right now, I want you to think about this. What are you worried about right now? Close your eyes. All of you came in this room. You were smiling. You're pretty happy. but you also brought in some worries and concerns that have kind of been holding you hostage. They've been weighing on you. What are you worried about right now? Just hold it there. What are you worried about right now? Okay, you can open your eyes. Anyone brave enough to say, here's a worry I have? Paying bills. Moving with an infant and 2 children and not having half of the house packed. Leaving friends behind in a community that I love. I'm worried. Starting a new concept like the living room, where I have these great concepts and ideas I want to share, but worried. I'm a little worried today. Anybody else? Childbirth. Thank you.
Oh, I think ever since I spoke to you on the phone, my worry as a mom is like, where are my kids?
My kids.
They get up and they go, I want to go to church and I love being there. So now I'm worried about, I talked to them, they were like, they deflated. They were like, what are we going to do? And I said, we're just going to have to probably move to Idaho too. We're just talked up.
Hit the panic button.
But she was just, they were just, that's what I worry about. Like, me, I think I can adapt. I mean, I'm sure we all can, but I worry about them.
Kiddos. We worried about our kids. Anybody else?
I think I worry for the unknown.
The unknown.
The unknown, and also depression.
Depression.
You know, well, we had a bad experience a week and a half ago. One of our doctors committed suicide.
Oh.
And young doctor. And I mean, it was he was great, but he was struggling. And there's a lot of people out there that just don't say anything. And because it's a taboo, as opposed to just dealing with the unknown and coming clean and saying, I need help.
Nice. And that's a scary hole to fall in. Not sharing your worries, your concerns. It just causes more and more depression, more anxiety.
Fake mass.
I think of Robin Williams. The happiest man alive was probably one of the saddest men alive. Yeah.
If you ever saw an interview, though, you can.
Oh yeah, you can pick
look
up.
back.
No. Anybody else? What are you worried about? That's okay, you don't have to say it. But you know it, right? You have it. Thank you for sharing those that did. Go back to this story. The story of the faith concept. Move from here to there. I'll move it. Nothing will be impossible for you. Jesus says, you could do it like Herod. You could use your fear force, right? Sheer force, brute strength. You can hit the panic button. You can do all this stuff. Freak out, right? You can build your own man-made mountain. Or you can plant a seed, one of the tiniest seeds called a mustard seed. And by the way, this is a mustard tree. What do you think of that? It's huge. I had these pictures. People would say, oh, look what the mustard seed can become a mustard plant. People were not seeing mustard plant. They were seeing trees, mustard trees. This is what you would see in the Middle East. You see these all over. Mustard trees. They're huge. They give a ton of shade. Mustard trees. He says, don't look at the mountain necessarily the way it was built. Think about the mustard seed. That can cause mountains to move. So think about this. When you plant a seed in the ground, it doesn't immediately grow, does it? Upward. What would happen if your plant just grew straight up overnight, like 5 feet tall? Just straight. fall down. Why? There's no foundation, there's no roots. I have to tell my kids every time we plant tomatoes, I have to remind them because they're constantly, Kason will go and he'll look every day, where's the plant? Where's the plant? I'm like, oh, Kason, you may not know this, but what's happening is it's growing roots. So I want tomatoes. I'm like, yeah, tomatoes are great, but it has to have some roots. The further down it goes, the bigger and bigger it's going to get. And so what you find fascinating about a mustard seed is the roots get really, really deep before it pushes up. Anybody?
There's another important thing behind that as well, though, because when you water a plant, or we'll talk about grass, right? That's what we see the most of. If you just sprinkle your grass, it's going to grow very weak and very short because it's only the roots are only staying close to the top. But the more you water it, the deeper the roots go. So I think it's the same with faith too.
Yeah. Think about this. That seed, bury that thing. Be the seed for a minute. What are you experiencing? It's dark. It's pretty uncertain, right? You're in the middle. You're in the dark, in uncertainty. Is there going to be water coming down or not? Right? Is this thing going to take shape or not? Am I going to make it? Am I going to make it to the top? Think about the things you're worried about right now, the concerns you have. Many of us, we feel like that seed there in the ground. Am I going to make it? But what happens, what's so beautiful about this place that many of us are in, the worry, the concern, the fear, is that this is actually the place where the roots can get the deepest. We forget about that. But this is the place, the fear, the worry, the anxiety, this is the place where you potentially have the most growth. And we'll look back years later and realize I grew some really deep roots there. And it's only because of that experience, not that I would have wished it on anybody, but it's only because of that experience was I able to pop out from the ground and experience the sunlight again. Anybody? Is that connected with anybody but me right now? We're all a seed, right?
What I'm saying is, you've built has to be strong enough to hold you. And I think you're doing okay.
And I think we as a community have built each other up.
I'm saying our seat. You know what I mean? You're the one that helps us and puts, brings us together. And we are rooting out, we're growing. And I thank you for that. And you're gonna be fine. We're gonna miss you.
Thank you.
I think I see this, and I see you the puppy with the little branches.
I see you guys as more seeds. But thank you.
Yeah.
I love this analogy just so much because, again, I see those moments of fear, worry. Those are the moments that take root. And again, thinking of pregnancy, Karen, right now, baby's not here yet. Baby's inside here, and baby's growing, and things are shifting and changing, but no one ever talks about how mom is changing and growing. Nobody talks about how mom is becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. And no wonder when baby comes out, mom, whether she knew it or not, like, you're ready. You're ready for the baby. You wouldn't have been had the baby come 6 months earlier, but you're ready. It's just beautiful. Certain things have shifted and changed with the body, and you're ready. It's powerful. I saw this the other day, and I thought, oh, yeah, this connects with me. Faith is trusting during the dark nights that life will burst forth. I liked that picture of faith. Nature is constantly trying to level things out. Nature is constantly saying, this is out of whack, then let's bring this in. Constantly in your life, one thing will happen, something else will take place, won't it? And things often seem to level out. And it's often trusting the journey. Faith that the dark nights will at one point burst forth into light. I like this one too. I'm still learning how to hear the word beautiful and let it be meant for me, to breathe it in and let it belong here. I thought that was pretty beautiful. I'm learning to breathe it in. And so right now, I want you to close your eyes again, and we're going to practice something really difficult. Again, we're just going to practice breathing. Are you guys game for this? So again, good breathing. I want you to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Here we go. Breathe in. And breathe out through your mouth. Don't stop breathing. Keep doing it. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Normal range for humans, again, 12 to 18 breaths per minute. Most of us, we're hitting about 100. We're just so chaotic, so stressed. 12 breaths per minute. That's pretty relaxed. Breath. On average, people take about 24,000 breaths per day for a total of 3,000 gallons. It's 1,800 Ethos water bottles. It's a lot of breath. You're breathing a lot, and most of the time we're not even aware of it. We're not thinking about it. We're breathing. With shallow breaths, less oxygen enters the blood. It causes some digestive issues. When you slow your breath down, it actually helps the digestive process. It relieves stress. Deep breathing increases the supply of oxygen in your body, and this extra oxygen supplied to your body helps in burning extra fat. I found this really interesting as I've read different articles. People who are anxious and worried often breathe in really rapid paces, whereas if they would just learn to breathe normally and breathe in enough air, they would actually also lose some weight, which I find really interesting. Breathe. Close your eyes one more time. I want you to consider the thing, the worry, the fear. I want you just to breathe in and just breathe it out. The rest of that quote is, it's learning to breathe in the dark, knowing the dawn will come. Breathe. Faith. What if faith is like Jesus said, like a mustard seed? That when we learn to trust the journey, we learn to walk in the new thing without anxiety and fear, without pushing our own will on the thing, but we learn to just walk fully, knowing that there's going to be light again. What if that's what faith is? Learning to trust that things will turn out. Learning to trust the journey. How'd you feel about that one? Beautiful? Yeah, I'm trying to breathe a lot more these days. I'm trying to be less reactionary and breathe. And it's not been easy. And so I want to say this, with all of the different changes and all of it, I might challenge you to just stop and breathe. It's easy to just, oh, well, this is, da, 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 and I'll, it's so easy to just, right? Stop and breathe. Stop and breathe. My family and I, the last month, we've been scared, we've been nervous, all those things. But my wife has reminded me over and over again, Tony, I want you to just breathe. I want you to breathe. Yes, you can worry. It's normal. But I want you to just breathe. Things will turn out great. They always do. Just breathe. There will be a new birth at the end of this. Something new wants to come through. Wants to burst forth. Cool. Awesome. We're going to have Chanel come up and do a couple more songs. And I believe, Lance, before that, you're going to come up, do the a donation appeal and other stuff. Yeah, okay, good.
Time for donations. Obviously, we have the jars in front of you for your checks, your cash. As Tony has told a number of you, as we've talked about, we're going to try to continue this thing in a different form. And we're going to try to, he's mentioned the living room concept a number of times. And so that's what we're collecting donations for at this point. Try to keep this community going. There'll be distance, of course, but we're going to use technology and we're going to essentially couple technology with our friendships, with our relationships, and just stay connected and keep this special thing going. So, so if you're inclined, please continue to donate, continue to contribute, and just help us keep our connections together.
All right, the song that I'm gonna do, Leo, is not actually the one that's next. It kind of came to me just as we were talking today, so I didn't practice this. So I hope just the words ring true and that stands out. Slow down, take time, breathe in, he said, he'd reveal what's to come. The thoughts in his mind, always higher than mine, and he'd reveal all to come. Take courage, my heart, stay steadfast, my soul. He's in the waiting, he's in the waiting. And hold on to your hope as your triumph unfolds. He's never failing, he's never failing. Sing praise, my soul, find strength and joy. Let his words lead you on. Do not forget his great faithfulness, the finished all he's begun. Take courage, my heart, stay steadfast, my soul. He's in the waiting, he's in the waiting. And hold on to your hope as your triumph unfolds. He's never failing, he's never failing. And you who hold the stars, who call them each by name, will surely keep your promise to me, that I will rise in your victory. And you who hold the stars, who call them each by name, will surely keep your promise to me, that I rise in your victory. So take courage, my heart, stay steadfast, my soul. He's in the waiting, he's in the waiting. Hold on to your hope as your triumph unfolds. He's never failing. He's in the waiting. He's in the waiting. This one is the one that I planned. The next one. Yeah. So this song, Tony and I have talked about and kind of in our journey has meant different things to us. You make me brave, as community makes me brave, people make me brave, God makes me brave. And so wherever you are today, as a seed, can't see what's around, I invite you to just think of what makes you brave and what gives you faith to know that the day will come. I stand before you now, the greatness of your now. I've heard of the majesty and wonder of you, King of heaven, in humility I bow. As your love and wave after wave crashes over me, you are for us, you are not against us. Champion of heaven, made a way for all to enter in. I've heard you calling my name. I've heard the song of love that you sing. Oh, I will let you draw me out beyond the shore into your grace. Oh, your grace, as your love wave after wave crashes over me, You are for us, you are not against us. Champion of heaven, you made a way for all to enter in. 'Cause you make me brave, you make me brave, you call me out beyond the shore into the waves. You make me brave, you make me brave. No fear can hinder now the love that made a way. You make me brave, you make me brave. You call me out beyond the shore into the waves. You make me brave, you make me brave. No fear can hinder now the promises you made. And as your love and wave after wave crashes over me, you are for us, you are and you make me brave. You make me brave. You call me out beyond the shore into the waves. You make me brave. You make me brave. No fear can hinder now the love that made a way. You make me brave. You make me brave. You call me out beyond the shore into the waves. You make me brave. You make me brave. No fear can hinder now the promises you made.
Those were good choices. I want to give a little announcement. Next week will be the last time we meet in this room. And so I hope you can all join us. I hope we can get all of us who have been here through this journey here in this room. And what I'd love to do is I want to, Joe's not here, and so what I want to do is acknowledge people like Joe and others who have made this space and this whole thing just hum. You guys in? I want to be able to do a really beautiful celebration of what this is, what it's moving to, all of it. And I want to be able to say, Lance and I were talking just this morning how there's a lot of emotions involved that we're all feeling. Am I right? We all have a lot of emotions: sadness, fear, anxiety, newness, all of those kind of things. And so next week is going to be an opportunity to kind of move through all of it. What do you think? We're going to have Jason. Jason, I told him this was going to be the last one here. He said, please let me do this. He is very excited to do the last time here doing music. And he's felt so connected to what we're doing, even though he's not been able to be here. So he said, please let me be able to share some music for this last one. On the 14th, we're going to have a thing at my house. And we want to model what this living room kind of thing is going to look like. The living room idea is birthed from the idea that people form connections far deeper when they're sitting on couches and having conversations. And I think we got a taste of it here. But I think there's something even more to come. And so when people get together on couches and start sharing things, if you can think back on all of our journeys together, it started with sitting over a game of Catan, or making some tacos and being frustrated we didn't have a wine opener. It was sitting together, talking about ideas, sharing frustrations, pain, all of those things. That's what happens in a living room. And that's what we're going to be working toward with Ethos. And after this last meeting time here, we're going to have a break of 1 week where we recommend just going out and doing something fun with your family, doing something exciting outdoors, do something. Then come together with us the 14th. After the 14th, in October, we're going to do the 1st and the 3rd of every month. And we're going to have living rooms open for you to attend. And what's going to be neat about this is you can show up in your PJs. You can show up in whatever outfit you want to show up in. And what you're going to do is you're going to actually walk into a home. And you're going to be greeted by friends. And you're going to eat some good appetizers. But the beauty of it is it's going to start at 11 most weeks, the 1st and the 3rd. So you can eat breakfast with your family and do family things or just relax in the morning. And then head over to a living room near you. And we'll set up different living rooms where you can go. There at the living room, you'll enjoy a conversation. And then you'll get to sit around. And what you'll see is my ugly mug show up. And what I'll do is I'll just share ideas and then get group conversations moving. And so you'll still get the weird twist on the Bible that I usually share, but it's going to be in a more intimate kind of setting. And so I have friends in Seattle that are going to be joining. I have friends in Denver and a couple other places that are all really excited about this. So what you'll see happen is you in your living room group, you'll discuss concepts, and then you'll get to hear from people around the country at some point also share ideas and concepts. And what you'll find is it's a safe place where people can grow, where they can be, belong, and become. Cool? I hope to see you next week. And I'm really excited about having you all over my house for one more big celebration together. Anna's going to be doing some cooking for us. And so that means Steve is going to have to just relax and eat food. It's just going to be weird for him. Oh, great. Yeah. So there'll be a lot of food, a lot of great conversation, and we really want you to be there. So I hope you can be there for that too. Blessings, everybody, and hopefully this week you'll be able to breathe. Cool? Awesome.